Let me start by making it clear that I unequivocally condemn phone hacking and payments to the police. Such practices are a disgrace and have shocked and shamed us all. They need to be purged from journalism and reforms instigated to prevent such criminal activities ever happening again. But let's keep all this in proportion. Britain's cities weren't looted as a result. The banks didn't collapse because of the news of the world. Elected politicians continued to steal from the people they were paid to represent. The nation didn't go to war. Yet the response has been a judicial inquiry with greater powers than those possessed by the public inquiries into the Iraq War. An inquiry, incidentally, that includes a panel of experts who, while honourable and distinguished people, don't have the faintest clue how mass-selling newspapers operate. Indeed, am I alone in detecting the rank smells of hypocrisy and revenge in the political class's current moral indignation over a British press that dared to expose their greed and corruption? The same political class, incidentally, that until a few weeks ago had spent years indulging in sickening genuflections of the Murdoch press. Which is why today I'd like to try to persuade this inquiry that self-regulation, albeit in a considerably beefed-up form, is, in a country that regards itself as truly democratic, the only viable way of policing a genuinely free press. I'd also like to persuade you that there are thousands of decent journalists in Britain who don't hack phones, don't bribe policemen, and who work long anti-social hours for modest recompense, and if they're in the regional press, often for a pittance, because they passionately believe that their papers give voice to the voiceless and expose the misdeeds of the rich, the powerful, and the pompous. And in that context, I'd first like to explore several illuminating paradoxes in the current furore over the press. Paradox number one is that the political class's current obsession with clamping down on the press is contiguous with the depressing fact that the newspaper industry is in a sick financial state. Several of our quality papers are losing awesome amounts of money. More worrying, Britain's proud provincial and local press, currently subject to closures, mergers and swinging cuts, is arguably facing the severest challenges. This diminishes our democracy. Courts go uncovered, councils aren't held to account, and the corrupt go unchallenged. This is a democratic deficit that is in itself worthy of an inquiry. My second paradox is the growing clamour for more regulation ignores the uncomfortable truth that the press is already on the very cusp of being over-regulated. Indeed, over the past 20 years, restriction has been piled upon restriction. The Data Protection Act means that reporters can be criminalised for such basic journalistic practices as obtaining ex-directory numbers, which they need to do to check stories are accurate. The Human Rights Act is resulting in the creation of a privacy law by judges who seem to attach more weight to the right to privacy than the right to freedom of expression. This is being compounded by the growth of injunctions and super-injunctions to prevent information being printed that is freely available on the internet. Then we have the ruinous CFA system and its cynical partner, after-the-event insurance, which means that virtually no newspaper can today afford to fight a court case that could then end up costing literally millions. Meanwhile, the Bribery Act, in which there's no public interest defence, makes it illegal to pay a civil servant for information that could reveal corruption, and indeed would have prevented the Telegraph from paying for the material confirming MPs' fraud.